Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. And today's episode is Bleach Soul Society The Rescue Arc, Episode 61, Aizen Stands Horrible Ambitions. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happened in the episode. So the episode begins with the captain of the 4th squad having Asane track Aizen, and then once they discover where they are, she then has Asane send a message to the captains, the vice captains, acting vice captains, like lieutenants, and the Ryoka, to basically tell them Aizen's the bad guy, here's what he's done, and here's where he is, so that he can be fought against. Also reveals Tosin and Ichimaru's involvement as well. We then move on to the hill where Aizen is trying to get Renji to give him Rukia. Renji refuses, uses his sword to fight against Aizen, but doesn't do very well. And as Aizen's about to finish him, Ichigo arrives, and they then decide to collaborate and try to kill Aizen. However, once again, they completely fail, and are basically left lying there while Rukia is captured by Aizen, and he takes the opportunity to give his villain speech about how he knew Rukia was in the real world, how he knew they were getting help from Urahara, that he knew they would end up in the West Rokungu because that's where Ichiharu's gate would appear, that they had manipulated things to bring the wall down, to make sure that they entered in through the sky barrier, how he manipulated all of the Shinigami to be looking at the Ryoka while he was able to move in the background because it was all his plan. Even Rukia being executed was his plan because apparently Urahara, before he left, or rather was exiled from the Shinigami realm, he had created a Death God Hollow hybrid, which was called, I think, a Hyoguru? No, that wasn't it. Hyogoku, something like that. Anyways, the point is, he basically death godified a hollow successfully, but decided to hide it and make sure it couldn't fall into the wrong hands because he couldn't figure out how to destroy it after he realized it was a bad idea or something like that, and hid it inside of Rukia's soul. Therefore, when Rukia found herself in trouble in the human realm, he offered assistance by giving her a false body. However, Aizen reveals that the false body actually degrades soul power over time, and had Rukia remained in the human world, she eventually would have lost all of her soul power and actually became one with the body, becoming a human. In this way, then, the Hyogoku would be forever lost, but Aizen wants it. That's why he has manufactured Rukia's execution, so he can take it from her. Of course, when he mentions the hollification of a death god, Ichigo immediately flashes back to his own hollow mask and the fact that he also is somewhat of a hybrid. Anyways, as they are continuing this, Aizen is about to basically has brought us up to speed on his manipulations and the fact that he wants to break the wall between Death God and, like, the Death God's upper limits, and the way he says to do this is to become part hollow, and that is why he wants what's inside Rukia. But before he can go any further with his explanations, that is when what was his name? Kamamura, the captain that looks like a dog, or perhaps you prefer the term wolf. Either way, canine featured person comes and interrupts Aizen attacking him, and that is our cliffhanger for the episode. So now that we've been reminded about what happened in the episode, we will now rank the episode. As always, we'll start with our mostly objective ranking list, followed by the personal ranking list. So first we have our multi-arc supporting character developments, which is Aizen revealing his manipulations and plans. Manipulations and motivations. Then we have the multi-arc supporting character growth. Renji uses, I actually can't remember if he used this against his fight with Byakuya or not, but I'm thinking I haven't seen it before. The Higa Zeko, which is Bite of a Broken Baboon's Fang. Then we had Asane using the Kakushitsu Jaku, or Footprint Attentive Pursuing Sparrows, which is how she tracks where Aizen is. And then she uses the Tentai Kura, which is Heavenly Rickshaws and Silken Air, which is basically her messenger spell, which actually looks pretty cool. We then have the world building with the introduction of this Hyogaku thing that's going on that's hidden inside of Rukia. And I guess also some more additional information on the, I think they called them Gigai, which is like that false body that she was running around in the human world, and how it degrades spirit power. And then we also get some flashbacks there of, her struggling and wondering why her powers weren't recovering or were taking so long to recover. And this kind of gives an answer to that. But at any rate, that does put us well above 10 on our mostly objective rank values. So this is another 10 out of 10 episode. As I didn't think anything negative occurred. I could have said excess exposition because Aizen was talking a lot, but the villain's speech is pretty classic. And this is revealing a side of things that we didn't already know, so I wouldn't count it as excessive. But otherwise, villain speeches are annoying, but it doesn't fall into any of the negative categories, so can't take any points for that, unfortunately, at least not on the mostly objective ranking. And that then brings our arc ranking so far on the mostly objective to in first, Flash Goddess Yoruichi Dances, The Despicable Shinigami, Ishida The Utmost Limits of Power, Morning of the Sentence, Genichimaru's Temptation, Resolution Shattered, An Accomplished Oath, Get Back Rukia, Supersonic Battle, Determine the Goddess of Battle, Senbon Zakura, Crushed, Zangetsu Thrust to the Sky, Release, The Black Blade, The Miraculous Power, Conclusion of the Deathmatch, White Pride and Black Desire, Reality of the Despair, The Assassin's Dagger is Swung. This episode is all the way down at 12, Aizen Stands Horrible Ambitions. And it's all the way at 12 despite being a 10 because on the mostly objective ranking, we rank in episode order if it has the same score. Then we have Hitsugaya Howls, The Strongest Shinigami, Ultimate Confrontation Between Teacher and Students, Overcome Your Limits, The Avengers, Rukia's Nightmare in 17th, Renji Oath of the Soul, Deathmatch with Byakuya, Authentic Records, School of Shinigami, and then in 20th place we have The Reviving Lion. So for my personal ranking, I liked the start of the episode. Both of the spells Asane did were pretty cool looking. Then I did also like the brief fight that Ichigo and Renji had with Aizen, because I thought it was nice that they went from enemies to kind of like now a frenemies thing, that they are able to coordinate together, but they still bicker. It was fun, except it was a really pathetic fight. When Asane was giving her message, oh my God, was she so roundabout in what she was saying? And I'm just like, get to the point already. Like, this is supposed to be an emergency broadcast, and you are just like taking the longest path ever to get to your point. So that was a bit like, well, kind of amusing in a way, but also very inefficient. You would think, like, if any time was the time to be blunt, it would be when you're giving an emergency broadcast to people. You'd think you just get straight to the point. here's what happened, here's what we need to do going forward, done. But that was not how it worked out. And then, like I said, Aizen's villain speech. Obviously, the villains get to have their speeches. All the villains get to do it. They have to tell the heroes, here's why I'm doing this, here's what I've done, here's my motivations, and I'm telling you this now because in my mind you're not going to survive, so I get to toot my own horn without anybody having to actually find out about it. Of course, then the heroes always have their comeback and reveal what was tooted on the horn. Anyways, the point is, it was interesting because you did see like a new perspective on things, and Aizen is the big bad of the series, and so it's a good reveal. We learn their motivations and everything. New concepts introduced. We also see Urahara, who up to now has been kind of like the helpful guidance counselor to Ichigo and Rukia in a way, helping them out when they need it, giving them supplies and giving them knowledge and fighting practice, etc. Well, now it turns out that he may not have been as good as we thought, which is a twist. So the episode was really good. I do feel that it had some of its flaws. The message took a little too long. The fight was a little too pathetic. The motivations and such were interesting, but also long-winded. And then he was kind of interrupted as well before he could fully finish his story by Kamamura coming in and attacking him, which leaves us at a cliffhanger. So overall, I decided to give it an 8 out of 10. Good, not great. And that brings the personal ranking so far to: in first, Release the Black Blade, the Miraculous Power; Conclusion of the Deathmatch, White Pride and Black Desire; An Accomplished Oath, Get Back Rukia; Ishida, The Utmost Limits of Power, Supersonic Battle, Determine the Goddess of Battle; Senpon Sakura Crushed, Zangetsu Thrust Through the Sky; The Despicable Shinigami, The Reviving Lion. In this episode is in 9th place, which is Aizen Stan's Horrible Ambitions. Then Renji, Oath of the Soul, Deathmatch with Byakuya; Morning of the Sentence, Hitsugaya Howls; Genichimaru's Temptation, Resolution Shattered; Flash Goddess Yoruichi Dances; The Strongest Shinigami, Ultimate Confrontation between Teacher and Students; The Avengers, followed in 17th by Reality of the Despair, The Assassin's Dagger is Swung; Authentic Records, School of Shinigami; Rukia's Nightmare; and then in 20th place we have Overcome Your Limits. Bringing us now to our series ranking so far. And so far, the mostly objective and personal ranking lists are in the same order. We have Agents of the Shinigami arc in first, followed by Soul Society the Sneak Entry arc. Where they start to differ is, of course, in the points. So far, Soul Society the Rescue arc has 177 out of 220, and Soul Society the Rescue arc on the personal ranking has 143 out of 220. But with that, we have now rewatched and ranked Bleach Soul Society The Rescue Arc, Episode 61, Aizen Stan's Horrible Ambitions. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.